What's up, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of The Lawyer You Know. And we're going to start today by just thinking about what's happening on Florida State's campus and the tragedy that is not unlike how just about every single case we cover starts. Something horrible happens, law enforcement gets involved, people get hurt, and a case usually ensues one way or the other. And it's brutal. And I know I'm praying for Florida State, for the students, for the faculty, for the people that live there on campus and near campus. Everybody's going to be affected. We are going to look for ways that we can help and get involved if at all possible. We live in a broken world where people do things we don't understand. I'm thankful law enforcement was able to hopefully at least mitigate and minimize what the perpetrators were able to do. And we're going to keep an eye on everybody that was affected and injured in the tragedy that occurred today. I think it's important to remember that, especially, days like today when things are going on and we're talking about cases and people are passionate about them and they care about them. Don't waste your time being a jerk online. Don't waste your time fighting tooth and nail about things that we're watching occur and learning from. Go hug somebody you love, do something you like, do something you enjoy. Don't waste your time on things that don't do any good, right? So try to make the world a better place, give people grace, help people out as much as you can. We are going to talk about the end of this Lori Vallow trial today. Both sides rest. The final investigator and cop is called, the new lead case agent. I actually don't think Lori Vallow did a bad job of pointing out some real deficiencies in the investigation. But at the end of the day, like happens in so many trials, her own words did her in. The prosecutor led this witness down the road of exactly how these words work to prove a conspiracy. So let's take a look at the testimony together. Okay, so this is the new lead case agent that was initially on scene. There was a different lead case agent. He basically says the old lead case agent dropped the file on my desk and walked away, which is not great. But he takes us through what he did, how he came to his conclusions, and what he found to be important. He does describe the scene and when he was there, but the biggest parts of his testimony to me were emails and text messages with Charles Vallow, Lori Vallow, Alex Cox, other members of Lori's family and inner circle, and eventually Chad Daybell. So let's take a listen to their explanation of some of the text messages here. And this is really how, because I think they've struggled to really prove conspiracy with the facts and evidence versus the motive and the story and the coincidences and it all just coming up aces for Lori Vallow every time. It's like every time she wanted to get rid of somebody, she did one way or the other. And yet what she needed them for, whether it's money or something else, she would get that too. Well, came to a screeching halt here. But we're going to listen to what was happening leading up, what Charles Vallow was doing and saying. We know what happened on July 11th, and then what happened after paints a pretty good picture with evidence in Lori Vallow's own words and actions that I think would probably be enough for most juries to convict.
Based upon your review of the case and the dates on here, did Charles Vallow begin confronting Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell about the affair less than 2 weeks before he was killed?
He did.
And did you in fact see emails that Charles Vallow sent to Chad Daybell on June 29th and 30th?
I did.
And did you in fact see emails that Charles Vallow sent to Tammy Daybell on June 29th and June 30th of 2019?
I did.
At the time on June 29th, 30th, where was Charles residing at that time?
During that time, Charles was in Houston, Texas.
During that time, where was Lori Vallow?
She was in Arizona.
We have this timeline where Charles Vallow begins reaching out to Lori and Chad's wife about this affair. Was the first time that Charles Vallow saw Lori Vallow after him discovering this email on July 11th of 2019?
I believe so. There was a scheduled trip around the 4th of July, but was canceled. So the next time they would have seen each other would have been the July 11th.
So based upon your review of SMS messages, iCloud accounts, did Charles help Lori move here to Arizona about a week before this email?
Yes,
So he had seen her prior to learning about this,
correct.
and then when he came out here to see JJ.
Yes.
When you were reviewing, well, let me ask you this. Were search warrants executed to obtain not only Charles Vallow's iCloud accounts, but Lori Vallow's iCloud accounts?
Yes, they were.
Were there two different iCloud accounts that were, that search warrants were executed on?
Yes,
Was one of them Lori for Style at iCloud.com?
it was.
And was the other one LollyTime at iCloud.com?
It was.
In reviewing those records, did you ever find evidence, screenshots of flights that Lori Vallow went to Idaho in March of 2019?
I did.
And did you ever find evidence, screenshots of flights that Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow flew back to Arizona together on March 19th of 2019? Now, we heard from Adam Cox last week. When you, and he testified about text messages and interactions that he and Charles had leading up to July 11th. When you were going through the extractions of Charles Vallow's phone, did you see text messages between Charles Vallow and Adam Cox?
Yes.
And did those match what we observed? And I'm going to put up 210 here that was previously admitted. Were these?
So as they're, working their way through these text messages, they set up some very important things that happened prior to July 11th. And we've heard some about them, but I think this timeline was better. And Peapot Fairy said she thought, or he, I don't know if it's a he or she, that the presentation hurt the state. I think it's inappropriate. She leads way too much. And it feels like it gets worse every day because she gets so used to doing it. No objection by Lori Vallow. I still would try not to do it as a prosecutor, but I get it. It's easy to fall into that habit. But I feel like she was able to keep the timeline exactly what she wanted, just having that guy sit up there and say yes and correct. And she could basically testify her way through these text messages and emails. And she's setting up two important things. Number one, Charles Vallow and Adam Cox, her brother, were planning an intervention to stop her from some of her wild religious takes. She didn't like it. She didn't want it. She wanted to stop it. She needed protection for that. Number two, the affair with Chad Daybell. Charles Vallow, which we know from the prior trials, and now from this one, Charles Vallow was reaching out to Tammy Daybell and other people. He knew about the affair. He was going to do something about it. He wasn't going to go quietly. So two things that Lori Vallow absolutely wanted to stop, fight against, not allowed to get moving, that were motive beforehand. Then we have what happened on July 11th with her involvement with Alex Cox, her protector, and somebody she's talking about all this with. And then we'll get to what happened afterwards, which to me completes the picture of exactly what happened here.
The messages that were previously admitted, Exhibit 210, the same ones you saw in Charles Vallow's phone?
Yes, they are.
Okay. When you were reviewing the text messages or SMS messages for July 11th of 2019, do phones and the extractions advise when a message is received as well as when it's read?
It would show that, yes, in the Cellbrite report. Yes.
Okay. So, for instance, we see here a time and a read, correct?
Correct.
So when a message is incoming, it'll show when it's read.
Correct.
Obviously, when it's outgoing, we don't have that, correct?
Right.
So as you were looking at those messages on the cell phone extraction, did you see as Charles is arriving, he's sending messages to Adam?
Yes, that's correct.
And then he receives a message from Adam at 7:36:19.
Yes.
And he read that. I'm going to pull in just a little closer so we can see. At 7:36:27.
Yes.
So just a few seconds later.
Correct.
And then again, he gets that message from Adam. They're planning something. And did he again read that like simultaneously?
Yes.
And then did Charles send a message within a few seconds of reading that? Absolutely.
Correct.
And then again, this timing is just within seconds, like just ongoing conversation.
Yes,
Do we see that just a few seconds later, Adam sends a message to Charles? I was supposed to spend the night at the house last night. She probably blocked that.
yes, I do.
Also, knowing exactly when Charles is going to be there, when he's not, making sure Alex is there, when Charles is going to be there, part of the setup, part of the knowledge, they're explaining some of that. So you guys tell me, I don't think he seemed like a mean guy, but he didn't seem to have a real grasp on this investigation. And that's why I actually thought Lori Vallow made some points on cross. And again, when she made, half a point, I was thinking a defense lawyer could have made 3 points on that. Because it didn't seem like a great investigation, and it didn't seem like this guy really fully knew what was going on to me, but maybe it was more the presentation. If you guys think that, let me know.
And then again, another 20 seconds later, Charles sends Adam a message. What you do is up to you.
Yes,
Then we see that Adam sends a message back to Charles again within another 17 seconds or something. I'm going to put the pressure to have him come get me now, see what he says. And that was read again, when?
12:13.
And again, did Adam send a second message where he says, okay. And when was that read?
12:13.
And then Adam sends another message now. So these first two were at 7:37:29 and 7:37:39.
Yes,
And those were not read like these other ones almost simultaneously, correct?
correct.
So after Charles said, what you do is up to you, it doesn't appear that he is any longer reading those emails
Correct.
or text messages. I apologize. The last text message that Adam sent then at 7:49 and 34 seconds was, me and Zach are going to the Stake Center tonight at 8 to play basketball. Holmes is always there, either playing ball or interviewing people. I will try to catch him to have a conversation with my old friend, right?
Correct.
When was that read?
12:13 as well.
They're trying to get other people involved in this intervention.
Is Charles Vallow alive at 12:13?
He is not.
So someone else is reading those.
Yes,
And this is coming from the extraction of Charles Vallow's phone.
correct.
Do you know who was in possession of Charles Vallow's phone at 12:13 p.m. on July 11th of 2019?
Lori,
How do you know that?
she told us, and she turned the phone back over to us later that afternoon.
Did you ever find any other evidence that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox went through Charles Vallow's phone on July 11th of 2019?
Yes,
And that was basically it. He didn't elaborate on it as much as I thought he would, but that's the evidence that they have as far as, kind of the setup and coming up to it. There's still a lot more we're going to get to. A couple questions about the next trial here for Vallow. Hello, Peter. If she is convicted of this crime, will it be allowed into Brandon's trial? Thank you for explaining everything to us. I don't remember what happened first, but if this happened before Brandon's trial and she gets convicted here and they're trying to go with the same MO, same way of doing things, then I think it is possible that that this would be allowed in Brandon's trial. Do you think she'll represent herself in the next trial, which will be Brandon as the victim? And my guess would be yes. Rolling along. But the jury probably doesn't understand that the prosecutor is leading. Peter's a lawyer and knows, and we know because he told us, but probably just listening to his answers, my opinion. So I tend to agree with you, rolling along, that it's frustrating me. It should be objected to, but for people that are watching and listening in court, I think they're probably just like, oh, okay, this prosecutor knows what she's talking about because this witness just keeps saying yes, it's flowing smoothly, and they're just basically taking it as evidence, which evidence is supposed to come from the witness stand, not from the lawyer's mouth. It seems like a lot of it is coming from the lawyer's mouth in this case. All right. He talks about how Alex Cox is the one, or Alex Cox calls Lori before he calls 911, and Lori never actually called 911. Alex never responded to Adam. And then we get into the Nephi Ned talk, and this stuff is explained. And my first thought was, do I know about this because of the Idaho case, or did they explain it enough here? Before we get to that section, I am going to run an ad, and I wanted you guys to know this is one of the ads I talked about before, that when I'm going to Greece, this is a big one for me, and I was pumped to find them and work with them. And you guys let me know if you've ever had any experience with them. But also, Everybody should love this because, in fact, it should keep me connected and able to keep hanging out with you guys. All right, you guys know I'm going to Greece in July and I'm a planner. And I've already started to think of all the issues. I'm not a big international traveler. I don't do it all the time. So I want to make sure I have everything set up before I go. And I can't live without the internet. I've got to always be connected. I've got to make sure I know what's going on in the office. If I want to follow some cases, I will be on vacation with my family, but I like to still stay connected. And I had to figure out how in Greece I was going to be able to stay connected, which is why I'm so happy I found Saily. And I'm incredibly excited to be partnering with them. And if any of you are traveling, you need to use Saily, and you can get an exclusive 15% discount on the Saily eSIM data plan. It is so simple. You literally just download the app, select the country you're going to, and it'll have a price on there, and the prices will shock you. I don't even want to say what I would have paid to have internet on these trips, but I promise you this price is going to be cheaper than what you would expect and what you would pay if you want to stay connected while you travel. So once again, we've got the hookup if you need something like this and you're anything like me, and you can get an exclusive 15% discount on Saily eSIM data plans. Download the Saily app and use code LAWYERYOUKNOW at checkout, or scan the code on the screen right now and get started today. Leslie said, Greece in July, the heat will kill you. I'm from Florida. Baby. We're ready for the heat. I played pickleball for like 4 hours in 105-degree heat, and I love it. Just sweat it all out. Just sweat it all out, right? So I'll be ready. I'll be ready for it, and I'll drink lots of water. Okay, so talking about the Nephi, Ned, etc. Conversation, he, with the prosecutor leading him, explains what that means. They reference a lot of what Adam Cox said about, a justified killing. It has to do with religion. It has to do with, it being okay because of X, Y, or Z reason. And that's why they keep referencing things like that. They talk about Lori texting Alex that I need you because Adam is freaking out. They talk about zombies and Z and, bad news. Our brother turns into a Z. And from my perspective, people becoming dark and getting into those text messages again. They did it a lot less in this trial, but it was important to me. It was important to me that they got there because that shows motive, discussion, meaning of the minds that this person is bad, right? Do we believe that's actually what it means? I don't know. But as far as the state's presentation, proving that Alex and Lori, at least them two, believed they were bad and wanted to go forward on a plan to get rid of bad people that they saw and knew. They talk about Melanie Gibb. Again, she texts things like the plot thickens. They have an elaborate plan. We can't leave. We have to stay here and defend ourselves. Mel fakes being sick for Lori. Alex is at Lori's house when they know Charles is going to be there. Everyone knew he was going to be there. They talk about some of the phone calls between Lori and Chad Daybell on July 11th after the shooting, when she's being contacted by police, when she's leaving the station, what should she do? What should she not? Talking to him kind of every step of the way. So we had leading up to them needing to defend themselves and something's coming and the plot is thickening and we need to get rid of Ned and the zombies and the dark people and the bad people. And this is the person we need to stop. All before, then you have July 11th. Then after July 11th, you see things pick up with Chad Daybell. She wanted to get rid of Charles because she wanted his money, but she wanted Chad Daybell. And we've heard plenty of, her name is now Lori Daybell. She was having an affair when she changed her name from the Social Security guy, all sorts of things. I said Melanie Gibb. It was Melanie Boudreau. That's my bad. I get off because there's also a Melanie too that was actually Chad in her phone as the address book. So that's my bad. If I said Gibb, not Boudreau, there's a lot of Mels. So that's my bad. Thank you guys for correcting me. And that's just how involved this case is, right? There's just so much. And I appreciate you guys who know so much about the case, keeping me on my toes. So let's listen to a little bit more about immediately as Charles Vallow is laying on the floor of the house, the tragedy, to think of all the kids and family members and people in his life that he touched, what's happening to him, and immediately the romance kicks on open and fully between Daybell and Lori Vallow.
531 South Four Peaks.
Yes, it was.
Did you see another call between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell at 5:42 p.m. that lasted for over 30 minutes?
I did.
And did you see another call between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow on July 11th of 2019 at 7 p.m. that lasted approximately 11 minutes?
Yes.
And did you see a final call on July 11th between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow at 7:54 p.m. that lasted a little over 13 minutes?
I did.
When you were looking at the text messages between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, or contact name Bubby, that you located in those lollytime at iCloud account, did you notice a romantic relationship between them?
Yes, I did.
Prior to Charles being shot and killed on July 11th of 2019, did you see any open and obvious romantic messages from?
So Michelle L., as per usual, you've watched ahead, and I think we're going to be in some agreement when we get to how Lori handled the Nephi Mormonism stuff versus how this officer answered. And I've got a lot of thoughts on that, including Google and other things that we're going to talk about when we get there. But I thought this was a good point. Kayla said, do you think by him not reaching out to the people in the text and assuming the meaning made a difference in the jury's mind? So you guys are laser focused in on one of the big points I want to talk about when we get to cross, but let's hear him explain it out kind of here. The relationship between Lori and Chad post July 11th.
Chad under any of his contact names that you knew of to Lori Vallow?
I did not.
After Charles's death on July 11th, 2019, did you see any open and obvious romantic messages from Chad Daybell under any of his contact names to Lori Vallow?
I did.
Now, were there many messages and between Lori Vallow and contact name Bubby or Chad Daybell?
Yes, there were.
And again, those are all part of that recovered as part of the search warrant on the lollytime at iCloud account.
Yes.
In these text messages, did Chad write I'll call it, romantic story about Lori and himself that he texted and emailed to her?
He did.
Did he have other names for them?
I believe the names were James and Elena.
Did that story seem to sort of at least match the timing of when they met?
It did.
Were some of them more promiscuous?
Yes.
Did they also include conversations, though, about people like Adam and Brandon
They did.
and about Ned?
Yes.
I fairly book an approach with 229. Exhibit 229. 29.
229's.
One of the first message in this exhibit 229 is from July 13th, so 2 days after Charles was shot and killed.
Yes.
And do we see, at this point, Chad is asking Lori, how did Adam and Brandon find out?
Correct.
And again, on the 13th at 9:51, we see Lori telling Chad, my mom, because she was so mad, she went off on Adam.
Correct.
And again, when we go back to Adam's testimony, did he indicate he learned Charles had died on the 13th
Correct.
and that he got in a fight with his mom?
Yes.
At that point, do we see then a message from Chad asking, did he have much to say in his defense?
Correct.
And Lori responds, he was very defensive and tried to justify everything, but my mom kicked him out and said she would never talk to him again. She's dramatic.
Yes.
So we had learned that Adam had been speaking with Charles and that he hadn't told his family about this intervention, right?
Correct.
And that after this, he said he lost basically all contact with his family.
Yes.
And this seems to sort of confer with that.
Correct.
Do we then see a switch over from talking about Lori's family to now Chad talking to Lori about being deeply, crazily, madly in love with Lily.
Yes.
And they continue and they talk about it. And Rich Cat, yeah, I mean, she leads basically the whole time. But basically the whole time. Margarita said, could her legal aid say something about the prosecutor leading questions to Lori so she could object? I don't know exactly what the procedure is here. I don't think her lawyer or standby counsel is sitting right there. I think she meets with them after. But regardless, even if she talks to them after, at the end of the day, I'd be like, hey, pay attention to this. Even if you're not sure, object a few times for leading because she's been leading the entire time. So it's definitely some advice she could be given, but I don't know what kind of questions she's asking standby counsel. So to me, this timeline lines up perfectly as far as motive goes, which is the best thing that they have. And then if the romance wasn't enough and the discussions with Chad Daybell changing over wasn't enough, Samantha said, can't the lawyer lead on direct? No, only on cross. You can only lead on cross. Open-ended questions on direct. And so let's hear, not only were they talking romance, they were also talking life insurance.
This, are you seeing sort of every day multiple texts of love between these two?
I am, yes.
And again, going through the 17th, 16th, 17th, again, more affirmations of love, correct?
Yes.
Now, we know on the 15th of July is when Lori Vallow had called Banner Life Insurance to indicate that she was the beneficiary, right?
Correct.
And on the 18th is when she learned that she was not.
Correct.
So
Somebody said, I missed it in the chat, but somebody said, how is reading text messages leading? It's not. What's leading is, and that's exactly what Adam said, correct? And this is when she called life insurance, correct? And this is what the timeline is, correct? And this matches the timeline of when she met Chad Daybell at the, what is it, Protecting the People or something conference, correct? Those are all leading questions. Just reading a text message is not leading, but it's all the additional questions are pretty much leading.
in Exhibit 229, do we see on July 18th at 12:18 Arizona time? So I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. They can't.
So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. Those are the types of text messages that lead you to conspiracy to get rid of somebody, right? And that there was a meeting of the minds and everybody was on the same page.
Tell me to whom, of course, but it's done. I'll still get the $4,000 a month from Social Security.
Yes.
So on July 18th, after she talks with Banner Life Insurance, Lori tells Chad she's not getting the life insurance.
Correct.
But she tells him she's getting $4,000 a month from Social Security.
Correct.
Now we know from Lori Vallow's text to Alex that she went to Social Security on August 12th, correct?
Yes.
And we also had testimony from Social Security about that.
Correct.
But here it is on July 18th of 2018, and she already knows she's going to get money from Social Security.
Correct.
Again, do you see a lot of additional continuing everyday multiple affirmations of their relationship?
I do.
Okay, I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit to another thing that does this prove something? I'm not sure. But put the emoji in the chat that you would feel when you heard this text coming from Lori Vallow's new boyfriend she was having an affair with her husband, who she keeps calling her husband through this trial, has just been tragically, his life was ended. What would you feel by emoji, by word, whatever you want to do in the chat? Tell me what you would feel when you heard this text. And of course, because my timing is never perfect on these clips, I may give you another, you'll know it when you hear it.
This one, though, is an earlier for the Bubby one, we saw that it was a noon time message, right?
Right.
And so we learned that Lori received a email indicating she was not the beneficiary, and later she had a phone conversation.
Correct.
Does this one appear to be sort of the earlier one because it references, I just got the letter from the insurance company saying that I'm not the beneficiary. It's a spear through my heart. Who do you think he changed it to? Brandon or probably Kay? He left nothing for JJ.
Correct.
Did that conversation go on? Wow, that's terrible. There's no way to find out.
It did.
And did Lori then tell Chad, I might be able to see when I get his computer on Sunday, I could check the email sent to the insurance company. It will show change of beneficiary. He must have done it recently.
Correct.
So we had seen, in fact, photos what appeared to be from a computer that were sent to Chad Daybell, correct?
Correct.
Showing that beneficiary change.
Yes.
So does that seem to match with, again, what Lori's telling Chad here about finding out who got that money?
It does.
Does Chad then say, it seems you would have to agree to change, maybe the name was forged, you should have a good paper trail to prove it, right?
Correct.
So he's trying to help her figure out how to get that money. See then,
Just purely testifying, by the way, from the prosecutor there. So he's trying to make sure, he's trying to help her get that money. No question there, which they've been, really reprimanding Lori Vallow for doing the entire trial.
go on to say, I love you, this is terrible. It's probably another step in bringing down, what is this?
Gaddy Anton.
Did you ever learn what that was?
I'm sure I researched it, but off the top of my head, I don't know what it is.
Okay. Did Lori then tell him, nope, he can change it anytime he wants. He's the agent and anyone can change the beneficiary anytime with their own signature. I'm thinking it must be Kay.
Okay, here it comes, I think. I think it might be, it's either the next text or the one after that.
Correct.
So she understood, at least to Chad, that Charles had that right.
Yes.
Does Chad then say, it will be interesting if he if it got changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest.
Correct.
I don't know if she did it on purpose to have it on a separate page, but to turn the page, pause, and then read that question. It will be interesting if it got changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest. Is that how you talk about somebody that's your husband of 15 years, 5 kids together, all the things she's been saying about him this entire trial? Like that's one of those texts where it's like, bro, like that's not good. That's not good. That's what gets you in the generally bad guy or generally bad guy gal group. So like when you hear that text with her new boyfriend just days after, when they just didn't find out, or when they just found out they're not getting the money, and this is how they're talking to each other and talking about Charles Vallow, yeah, we can make some inferences. We can make some reasonable inferences from this evidence, and that's what the jury is allowed to do. They can vote guilty based on the evidence or reasonable inferences from the evidence. By the way, before the end of this video, because the state and the defense kind of rests today, we are going to do our first vote on whether you think it's going to be guilty, not guilty, or a hung jury. Alicia Joe said, do you think Lori has a chance at acquittal? We're going to hold on that until we do our vote. A couple lighthearted tweets, I almost said, comments here. Cece said, Peter, I had a dream last night that we played competitive pickleball together. It's the only kind I play. You said to me, disappointed. I thought you knew how to play. Ouch. Ouch. Mom to 8. We did Grease, and then she corrected Grease in her next comment. 2 years ago for my mom's 80th birthday, among other things, we did Paul's Journey, which was fabulous. We did Grease. That's awesome. I didn't realize the second part was a repeat. That's awesome. Yeah, we're doing like part of it in Athens and part of it on a cruise. So, and we're going to hit a bunch of different spots. So I'm really excited. And there she is correcting Grease. Okay. Then they get to the wedding. She became a Daybell on November of 2019, just 4 months after Charles Vallow died. And that's how she decides to end her direct of the lead case agent. Vicky said, would this excessive leading be grounds for appeal? If it really went too far, potentially, I don't necessarily think it is, especially because it's mixed in so much with the text messages here. There's no objection. And theoretically, you're supposed to protect the record by objecting to that. You have to be careful, though, not do it too much. I don't think she's doing it so much to where they're going to say it was a overall, in the interest of justice, we have to overturn this verdict and do it again because she led too much. So I don't think it quite gets to that level, but it's definitely not what you should do, in my opinion. Okay, cross-examination. He didn't get fully involved till June of 2020, so basically a year later. She asked about the walkthrough, focus on not taking DNA, fingerprints, things like that. She does. Lori Vallow herself plays some dirty pool here and asks something she knows is inappropriate and inadmissible to get it before the jury. The jury eventually is instructed not to listen to it, but you can't unring the bell. Do you think this will have an effect?
That DNA to be tested? Who would have to do that?
That'd be me.
It would be
As the new case agent, that would be me, or Detective Moffat at the beginning.
And so Detective Moffat never did that, is that correct?
Correct.
And you never did that, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if Charles' DNA was on the bat, then wouldn't that tell us something also?
Did he touch the bat at some point?
Yeah, that he took it from Saily, like she said in her interview.
And I'm going to check and move to
Sustained.
strike that.
The jury should disregard that last question. That information is not in evidence.
The judge did his best not to like fly off a handle, which he probably wanted to, but she's like, he took the bat from Saily, just like she said in her interview. So the jury hasn't seen Saily. They probably don't know what happened to Saily. I don't know. Maybe some of them did look it up. Maybe some of them already did know, but that's inadmissible. That's not the appropriate way to get it in. She knows it by now because she's been instructed many times and she still went for it, which is not that surprising for a criminal defendant, which is also why Daisy, didn't Lori waive quite a few appellate rights by going pro se? Not necessarily waive the rights, but she waived her right to say she was an ineffective lawyer, number one, and not objecting to leading questions would fit into that, but the prosecutor still has their duty to do what's right as well. All right, then she got into again that, she, Alex, and Saily were all very cooperative, and this case agent's basically like, I don't know, and the prosecutor kept objecting, and I was like, why are you objecting to this? This guy's the case agent. He should know if they were cooperative or not. Do we really think cops didn't talk about like, oh, they were cooperative? They weren't. They gave interviews. They turned over their phone. They gave their DNA, whatever. It's like you can tell just generally as the lead case agent whether somebody was cooperative or not. I did not think that was a good objection or good for, it was kind of a theme for him to just not know certain things, which I don't think would have hurt him if he did know. It was kind of weird. And there were some people that thought he did great, which is, good too. He didn't know if they downloaded Alex's phone or just got parts of it or just took pictures of certain parts of it. He admits that he would have done things different than Moffat from the jump. Moffat was the initial lead case agent who basically just dropped the file on his desk and walked away. And then we heard a lot from text messages with all these different people describing what all these different things mean. And Lori Vallow has a decent line of questioning. We call a spade, right? We call it like we see it. We're not big fans of Lori Vallow, but she scratched the surface of what could have been a good cross here for a section that we're going to listen to together.
Detective Duncan, in all those text messages, we saw a lot of people. Did you interview our mother, Janice Cox?
I did not.
Did you read or watch her interview?
I have not.
Did you interview?
I don't know if all these people were actually interviewed or not, or if he should have interviewed them, but if they were interviewed and he didn't even bother to watch or read her interview, that seems crazy to me in a case like this that you're investigating. Not just the high profile nature, but the seriousness of the crime. How did you not? I mean, you should have interviewed him yourself as the lead case agent, but if they were interviewed, you should have watched and read it, right? They could add important context to this conspiracy. They're not co-conspirators. It's not like they were in on it with her. I found that to be appalling.
Our sister, Summer Shiflett.
I did not.
Did you read or watch her interview?
No.
Did you interview our father, Barry Cox?
No.
Did you read or watch his interview?
No.
So the only source that you have for this investigation of the shooter in your case is through our brother Adam? Is that correct?
And all of the contacts mentioned through your iClouds.
Yeah, but you didn't ask anybody who was mentioned in there or who was speaking in there what they meant by any of those text messages?
Well, none of the people that you mentioned
Mhm.
were present during this incident. So you're asking about
It's a bad answer because we're trying to prove conspiracy. And part of conspiracy is the meeting of the minds. Everybody know what's going on before. If we're talking in code, what does the code mean? Who's Nephi? Who's Ned? We're preparing for something. We're defending ourselves. What did you mean by all that? Well, did you just mean we know that it was spiritual warfare and Adam and Charles were coming at us, and so we need to defend ourselves spiritually with prayer? If that's what they meant, that could add context. Or if they're like, physically, we need to take these zombies out and get rid of them, which again is what it sounded like, certainly, that's important context. So at least interview them. If they say we don't know or we just meant what we said, okay, but at least you would know.
the actual day of July 11th, if I asked them about that day or about the text messages.
About the text messages themselves. Like, did you ask my mother what she meant in that text message when she wrote it?
No.
Did you ask my sister what she meant in those text messages?
So Rosie, only 2 people are involved in the conspiracy, really, Peter? I'm just saying what the state's putting out there. The state said she conspired with Alex Cox. That's what the state said. If there are 25 people or her whole family or Chad Daybell even included, the state should say it. Put it out there. Prove it. Connect the dots of the conspiracy. I'm not just going to say it. That's not how I operate, right? So that's what I'm going off of. But especially if you thought they were involved in the conspiracy, why would you not want to interview them and talk to them and get everybody involved? Wouldn't you be in fear that they're going to do this to somebody else that disagrees with them if they did it to Charles?
No.
Did you ask Melanie, my niece, what she meant in those text messages?
No.
Did you ask me what I meant in those text messages?
I couldn't.
Okay.
Do you see his little smirk? I couldn't. You have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. It's like, well, you couldn't, but you kind of could have, right? Because she did do interviews when she had that same right to remain silent. So you probably could have asked her more at some point. I mean, obviously at some point she probably wouldn't have talked, but.
And through your investigation, you found out that, as you testified earlier, that Alex wouldn't text or call Adam back. Is that correct?
I'm not interpreting as far as he wouldn't do it. What I'm saying is I don't see it. So if there's a message there and there's a text, there's no indication that there was a call back or a text back.
So it looked like that he wasn't calling him or texting him back, even though he was getting calls and texts. Is that correct?
And then Adam also testified that he did not receive a call or a text back,
So,
which would be consistent with the records.
so the only person in our family, in our whole family, that you got information from was the estranged brother from our family who didn't know what was going on with everybody else.
I object to the form of the question. Argumentative.
Well, it's also compound, also stand the objection.
Okay, so Adam, our estranged brother, is the only
I don't think it's the worst point she's made throughout the trial. I'll just put it that way. Is it a winning point? No, but I don't think it's the worst point she's made.
one that you got information from. Is that correct?
I object to the form of the question.
Sustained.
So is this your normal protocol to just talk to one witness and not all the others?
No.
Why didn't you speak to any other member of my family?
A lot of members of the family have been spoken to.
But you were not privy to any of them.
So now is where I was like, be very careful, Lori Vallow, because you could open a door. You made your point, move on. She doesn't, of course. Thank you, Net Woman, for gifting 20 memberships. That's awesome. Going to be a lot of new members from this video as well.
That information as the case agent?
Well, I was privy to the interviews that were conducted by other detectives.
And you just testified to me that you didn't read or watch any of those interviews. Is that correct?
I have been present during an interview or a phone call with Summer, and been present during a phone call in this process, but I had never interviewed them.
How many interviews has Summer had with the police departments?
Objection, speculation.
If you know.
He can answer if he knows.
I don't know.
More than one or two?
I don't.
So I wasn't sure about this either, but Ida said, you think he should have watched television interviews? First off, yes, I would have. If I was investigating this and I was the cop, yes, I would have. You can learn a lot like that. But I thought she was referencing police interviews, which she just referenced there. I don't know. Maybe there's more interviews that she is, in fact, referencing. Rich Cat, couldn't the state put the people she's naming on the stand since she mentioned them? Well, they have to be on the witness list and things like that, which they weren't. But before this, yeah, they could have been witnesses. Ramona said, but if she wants to hear from them, from Summer and Janice, bring them to testify. Well, if she didn't properly serve them, she's not going to be able to, number one. Number two, it's not the defendant's burden, right? It's the state's burden to prove this case. Sandy said, if convicted, could she appeal the basis that the prosecution was leading and testifying? She could probably use it as partial, but that's not a winning argument, in my opinion, at least how it's gone here. Peapot Ferry. I understand why JJ and Tyler are off limits, but why can't Tammy's death come in as motive evidence? It happened after the fact, and usually things that happen after are not going to come in as leading up to an event like this, and too disconnected, and she wasn't there, and it's just more prejudicial than it would be probative that she committed this crime, is, I believe, what the judge found in this case. Chris K. Peter, if I was a juror, I couldn't help but think or wonder why Tylee didn't testify. She would be Lori's best witness. And Sargio said, I just don't understand why not one juror is asking why isn't Tylee testifying. So first off, I agree with you, Chris. I'm sure they're all thinking it. And for the other person, the other question, they may have. And we don't know because we're not hearing every juror question. We're only hearing the ones that are admissible and appropriate that the judge decides to read. So the jurors could have asked that question a bunch of times, realized it's not going to get answered, and then moved on. Hi, Peter and community, back from Paris. Ooh, Paris. Obviously, the investigation was nuts. Should it be a way to appeal if she's convicted? No, it's fodder for cross-examination. If the investigation was bad, you hit it right here. Emily M. This may be a dumb question, but why wouldn't Lori show the police interview with Tylee in her defense? Not allowed. Correct. Not allowed. Hearsay from somebody who is unavailable because of the actions of Lori Vallow.
Don't know.
Okay, but you knew of at least one.
That Summer has had?
Correct.
Yes.
But you didn't ask her any of these questions or any of the questions about the text messages that you just talked about that were on the screen with Summer?
I said no.
Okay. So as the case agent and a detective, do you form a suspicion and then stick to it and only investigate the things that lead you to that same conclusion?
No.
You had testified earlier about the story of Nephi, is that correct?
Yes.
And you said that you researched it,
I
is that
did.
correct? What research did you do?
Well, the very basic research. I Googled who is Nephi. What does Nephi stand for? I've also, through this process,
I would have liked him to, this was an opportunity for him to say, I looked into Nephi. I did some online research. I probably wouldn't have been like, I Googled him. I would have been like, I did some online research and I found out he's best known for justified killing or whatever it was, righteous killing. I would have given that answer right there because she opened up to it. If I just Google Nephi or Nephi Mormon, what is Nephi Mormonism? Nephi is one of the central figures described in the Book of Mormon. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, he is described as the son of Lehi, a prophet, and the founder of the Nephite people. The Book of Mormon also describes him as the author of the first two books, 1st and 2nd Nephi. What happened to Nephi? The Nephites and Lamanites were at war, but the brothers still taught people from both groups. One day, as they traveled to teach people, an army of Lamanites put them in prison. Many days later, they ended the life of Nephi and Lehi. I mean, it's not like the first thing that pops up on Google, the story that Adam described, that would automatically lead you to believe this is the conspiracy to end someone's life. So I think they tried to simplify it a little too much. And I think her cross is clunky and it's not good. But I think the point she was trying to make is the right one. That doesn't mean conspiracy. That doesn't have to mean that. It could have been a point made, but she fumbled it because she's not a lawyer.
Process over the last 4 or 5 years have asked other members of the church just a simple question: tell me about Nephi. And every single person I talk to tells me that same story that was told by Adam.
So are you aware that there's 15 books in the Book of Mormon?
I'm not.
Are you aware that 4 of those books are books of Nephi?
I'm not.
That there's Nephi?
I also feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I just have like a different memory of the Idaho case. I feel like those cops knew so much about this. And they put people on the stand that had a lot to do with us. I think they were trying to simplify this trial and not get too into it. But if that's one of your main hooks for conspiracy, I do think that's pretty important. And Chesty LaRue said, why didn't they just call an actual LDS leader? I think they wanted to simplify it, was my guess. Was it the right move, wrong move? I don't know. Dana said, it occurred to me that if Lori and Alex had been held as suspects, then Tylee, JJ, and Tammy might still be here. Can Adam and Colby do a civil case against police department? Huh. I don't know if Colby would be the one withstanding, but Kay or whoever was well, I guess no, Lori was the guardian of them when they passed. Tammy's kids, maybe. That's not a bad point, Dana. That they fumbled the bag so bad here that if all these people would have been caught and arrested when they committed this crime, a lot of people could still be alive. I mean, I think there's some logic there. I do.
1, first Nephi, second Nephi, third Nephi, fourth Nephi?
No, I'm not.
Okay. That there's many stories of Nephi. Is that correct? Or you don't know?
I don't know.
So the very first story is the story that,
I'm going to object to testifying.
It sounds that's the way it was going. So
But you're allowed to ask, like, the first story is this. Do you not know that? Or do you not know that the first story is this is probably what she should say?
please just ask questions.
so you did not read the Book of Mormon?
No.
You did not read first Nephi?
No.
You just asked people. That was your research?
I asked members of that particular church, and I also did an internet search. Yes.
So you did an internet search and it gave you all the stories of Nephi?
That's the story that came up.
So how long did you do that research for?
I couldn't tell you.
So in your research, did you discover that there's about 25 stories of Nephi in that Book of Mormon?
I didn't see that, no.
And that there's 4 different prophets that are called Nephi in the Book of Mormon?
I'm going to again object as to testifying, and the detective has already indicated, so asked and answered.
I'll overrule the objection. He can ask if he knows that or not.
What was the question? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I can't remember. Can the court reporter? tell
There's
us?
4 different.
So Erica said, I'm LDS and I know the Book of Mormon front to back. There's no other story she'd be referring to than the one that refers to killing Laban, considering the sequence of events. And on Chesty LaRue, I saw also put a comment up there that said, is Arizona as big of a Mormon state as Idaho? I don't know that answer. And I didn't know this, which is why maybe an LDS expert would have been helpful to put on the stand and actually say that, number one, because this is pretty clarifying from Erica. Number two, if the jurors are like me and don't know as much about the Book of Mormon, it's open in my mind that like, oh, like I know the Bible backwards and forwards. And I know that there are lots of stories about David, for instance, that could make him look good and make him look bad and things that he did in the Bible, like most people, right? We do things that are good. We do things that are bad that we wish we didn't do. So I don't know if that's what it is with Nephi, but that would be things that I was referencing just as a juror that's not a Mormon and doesn't know the Book of Mormon backwards and forwards. So that these are the types of things lawyers think in their head. And, you know, having you chat, be here as a sounding board helps me a lot in how to think about things and where we need to dig in and where we don't. And what's important to me, this was potentially important in connecting the conspiracy.
People referred to as Nephi.
Yeah, 4 different prophets in the Book of Mormon that are Nephi. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. So isn't it true that you really have no idea what I was referring to when I referenced Nephi in my text message?
I can only go off of what I see. I can't tell you what you're thinking or what you're trying to relay there, but based on my knowledge and based on talking to people about who is Nephi, that is a story that came up consistently.
You relayed to the jury that it was an order to kill. You relayed to the jury.
I said that the story was the same story and similar to Adam told.
Okay, and you said it earlier that was an order to kill. That I referenced Nephi. I will be like Nephi and you will be like Nephi. To the jury here today.
Ask a question. That's a statement, not a question.
Do you have knowledge that my text message meant that at all?
No.
She got him to admit it. You don't know that my text message meant that? No. It's not a win, right? It's not a win for the case, but she worked her way there and made a point.
Are you aware through all of your investigation of this case that my brother was a stand-up comedian, Alex?
I had heard that, yes.
And that everything is a joke to Alex?
I can't speak for that.
So when you're interpreting all these text messages and making all these assumptions, half of them could be jokes and you would not know that?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Were you speculating when you read my text messages?
I think I'm just reading your text messages. I don't think I was drawing any inference from them. I was just simply reading them.
And now she's going too far because he's fixing some of it now.
Well, today you were explaining them to the jury. Is that true?
Those were read. There was no explanation as to what it meant.
As the case agent, what is your communication with the other investigators in this case?
What do you mean by other investigators?
So who is on your team? Who is working for you on this case right now?
The only person
All right, that was the end of what I wanted to get there. I had some stuff. We'll just play a couple minutes, just like on redirect. And this is what happens, like even when it's not against a pro se defendant, prosecutors just hear a defense lawyer get up there and cross-examine a witness for an hour, and it's all leading questions. And the prosecutor's like, all right, now it's my turn. But it's just like leading question after leading question. Just an example for some people that, haven't noticed it. It feels like everybody is, but we'll just listen to a couple minutes of a redirect, which I think make a lot of good points because she's able to literally direct him down the line.
Sometimes we get cases where, oh, this person's had beef with me forever. Obviously, I am going to want to take that phone and go look through that. But in this case, we just had something reported to us that happened just 5 minutes and very limited information, as it was almost an impromptu attack. We had no information at the time that this is something that had weeks, if not months, of planning.
On July 11th of 2019, did you start to see inconsistencies between the statements that were being given, the timeline, and the physical evidence at the scene? Did you start to see some inconsistencies?
Yes.
For instance, you were provided with a self-defense theory. Did you see inconsistencies between that statement and what you're seeing at the scene?
So this is a good point by Casey as well. And again, I think this is kind of for those of us that are not as up in it, understand the Mormon religion and the book and, all of the stories. There are seemingly different interpretations of how people could look at this. I guess I'll kind of leave it at that.
Yes.
And that's where we're talking about the location of the bullet wounds to Charles, the bullet strike under his left shoulder, and the bullet being by his left shoulder for one of those shots.
Correct.
But again, you're still not aware of the background of these individuals.
Correct.
As you began
How many times he just says yes or correct?
learning more information about the interaction between Charles and Lori Vallow and learned about the individuals, were you then able to obtain information to allow you to write search warrants to even obtain phone records and iCloud accounts?
Yes.
So that's not just something you can be like, hey, I just want that, so I'm just going to ask iCloud for it and I'll just hand that right over?
Correct. You have to have.
Do we think that's a compound question? Here's a good point made by Katie. Peter, the judge expanded an objection to prosecution saying what Lori said was also compound. Why can't he jump into the prosecution constantly leading questions? He can't. He's not. He doesn't have to, but he can. And there's all sorts of improper questions, not just leading questions from this prosecutor. Netwoman, can Lori get an appeal for ineffective assistance of counsel, paralegal assistance? No. That's one of the ones she waives.
Probable cause in order to get that.
You were asked about DNA and blood, and I think you had said something about it. Is DNA only found in blood?
No.
So saliva can have it,
Correct.
sweat.
Correct.
So when you're asked about blood on the bat, that isn't the only form of DNA that would be left on there potentially.
Correct.
So when you're looking at the bat, that's not the only form of DNA on there potentially. Correct. It could be saliva. Correct. Could be blood. Correct. Could be fingerprint. Correct. Could be this. Could be spit. Could be sweat. Could be this. Correct. It's literally like a cross-examination. It's literally like a cross-examination. Okay. I did want to play this as well. I was a little bit like, if I was, her second chair, I'd be like, maybe we don't say, let's listen to this. And then I'll tell you what immediately popped into when I'm in trial, by the way, I'm hyper focused, thinking about every single word. You do not want to say the wrong thing or open the door to some mistrial or whatever. Like, you have to be focused in on what you're doing and knowing all the rules and what's going on. But sometimes somebody, myself or somebody I'm trying to case, will say something that like makes you cringe.
In these text messages and iCloud account records, start with Ned. When you first started seeing those, were you understanding the full story of where that came about?
No.
Did you then have to look to other people who, like Serena Sharp or Christina Atwood or others who were aware of who Ned was?
Correct.
Or what Ned was?
Yes.
In terms of Nephi, you said that we heard from Adam when he's asked about Nephi, what that meant to him.
Correct.
And he provided us with a story of Nephi and Laban, right?
Correct.
You said you Googled this like many of us do, right? Start out there.
Right.
That was it. You Googled it like many of us do. I would have just been like, I hope the jury doesn't go home and now Google it. There's no indication, right, that the jury should go home and Google it and figure out who's right. Right? That's not what you want. Thank you, Netwoman. 20 more. It's a big jump in members here in this video, which is cool. We're prepping for our April members only live. It's going to be fun. Vicky, though, with a great point. Why didn't she ask Adam if they're so off regarding Nephi? Yeah, why didn't you have a little debate with your brother on what other story you could have been referencing about Nephi? That's a great point, Vicky. All right, so then the state rests after this witness. The judge asks Lori Vallow if she's presenting any evidence. She confers their team. She basically says no. She makes a JOA argument and loses. Then the defense says they rest, but not so fast. Time out. There's one more clip I want to play from the judge. Before we do, though, John, put up the poll. If you had to vote right now, state's done, they rested. Lori Vallow, assumingly, is done. She may leave the door open. We're going to listen to a final clip here. Put up the poll. If you had to vote right now, guilty, not guilty, or hung jury. Nicole asked, is it in every state that you can't use someone's testimony if you caused their death or just jurisdiction or just this jurisdiction? From my perspective and everything that I know in every jurisdiction I've looked at, it's every jurisdiction. Lori asked 4 leading questions by going pro se. I don't know what that means. Oh, ask for leading questions. I thought you meant asked 4 leading questions. Yeah, not supposed to be like that. It's not. I've prosecuted a case against pro se defendants. You've got to hold yourself to the rules. It's part of like, golf. You call penalties on yourself. Lawyers are supposed to be like that too. I know it's impossible to fathom. Azam, off topic. Why is your shirt called a Greek shirt? No, I made a joke in one video that Whitney got us just getting everybody a new wardrobe basically for Greece. So I have all these new shirts in my closet that are popping up and they're all like, certain kinds of shirts. I don't know how to like, I don't know, yacht clubs. Or I don't even know. Cruise shirts. I don't know what you would call them. Hawaiian. They're not Hawaiian shirts, and so I made the joke that when I wear one of those, this is one of my Greece shirts. That's all I meant. All right, let's listen to what the judge had to say at the end of the day today and what our schedule is going to be with this trial moving forward. We'll hear the tail end of him denying her JOA.
Credibility of the witnesses, and it's ordered denying the Rule 20 motion. Are you going to present evidence tomorrow, either through witnesses or through your own testimony?
No, Your Honor, the defense will rest.
All right, if that's the case, I'm going to tell the jury.
By the way, in case anybody's asking, until you rest in front of the jury, it's not official. So her telling the judge that she rests does not mean she rests unless she does it in front of the jury.
How long does the state anticipate its closing argument being?
I would assume probably over an hour.
How about the defense?
Less than that.
Can we do the closings at 1 p.m.? We can formalize all the jury instructions at 10:30.
Your Honor,
Is that enough time?
the state would request that we do them Monday to ensure that the state would request we do closings Monday to ensure that we don't finish with a rebuttal closing on Monday.
Well, I'm willing to go in the morning if we want to
And
start.
that's like hours and hours potentially. Sounds like Lori Vallow is going to be a little shorter, her closing, but the state's got plenty to close on.
In the morning at 11 and do jury instructions at 10:15 or something like that. Does that work?
Again, I'm asking for Monday, but if the court does not allow that, then we'll go whenever the court says tomorrow.
to the jail until like 5:30 or 6 o'clock, so
You agree then that Monday's better?
I would agree.
All right, we'll tell the jury to report at 10:30 a.m. on Monday. They don't have to come in tomorrow.
Judge, could we have the defendant rest in front of the jury before they leave today?
Are you prepared to rest today? If you rest, that means you can't change your mind about testifying.
Can we do it on Monday?
We can do that on Monday, but if you change your mind, I need to know in advance because it's going to change the jury instructions and it's going to change the schedule.
Absolutely, I will let you know.
All right. Tell the jury they don't need to report on tomorrow, that they need to report Monday at 10:30 a.m.
And there you have it. She's still technically open. And by the way, you can actually rest in front of the judge. The judge can let the jury know you rested. It's supposed to be on the record. You're supposed to do it that way, but there are different ways. Here, they did it the right way. It's not official till she does it in front of the jury here. Okay. Looking at the poll results, 91% guilty, 2% not guilty, 7% hung. But I do appreciate some of these. Guilty, but I don't think I'm impartial. Guilty, but I'm biased. There was a lot of that. And I get it. I get it in this case. And not all of us would be good jurors for this case, right? Judy asked, why would Lori not put on a defense? Well, they weren't going to let her call a bunch of the witnesses that she didn't serve properly. So that's one problem for her. Additionally, if she's not going to testify, then that leaves not much for her defense. Trauger said, if I didn't buy my husband's clothes for him, he would have nothing in his closet to wear. So I used to think I was really good at, buying my own clothes. I think I'm okay at it, but Whitney is infinitely better, infinitely better. Are the new shirts bamboo? I don't think so. I didn't know that was a thing until yesterday. Chris K, following up from Dana's point, it is clear Chandler police dropped the ball. It seems strange they didn't take time and money to cover all their bases when going forward with the case, in my opinion. I have also been thinking about Dana's point, and like those are the types of cases I handle, right? Where it's like, you really should have done this and people lost their lives. Like that's a case I can get behind. Like, to me, that is legitimately, I don't know the case file in and out, right? And what they did, what they didn't do, what they knew, what they didn't know. But to me, on its face, that looks like a big time case. Nina, if Hank only wanted Turtle Boy to be sequestered, why not give him immunity still on the witness list, but don't have to call him? I think we know the answer to that. But you're right. That was an option. He could have given him immunity. Is he really that important of a witness? But I think we all know the answer. He's really not that important of a witness. Do you think they have proven conspiracy? I think a reasonable juror could come to that conclusion based on the text messages, yes. Based on the explanation of Nephi and Ned and getting rid of him and 2 bullets on his chest and the timeline of making sure Alex is there to protect her with a loaded firearm in her house. I do think that I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it was a great presentation. I don't think it's locked and loaded or the best locked in verdict I've ever seen, but I do think there is enough there personally. Should Lori have waived her speedy trial right? I don't know if it would have gotten any better. I think she should have had a public defender defend her in this time period. Welcome to Christine, all the other members. We are a little bit over, but I got to run. So thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate you all so much. Make sure you keep tabs on what's going on at Florida State and do anything you can and help anybody you can in any way you can in your community and around the world. I appreciate you guys. That's all we got. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Till next time, I am out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a pase you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.